We're good. All right, good morning. I had two chances this week to talk about what we're going to talk about today. And anytime I have something that crops up twice or more in one week, I kind of take notice. And so I did, and I asked God, okay, what is this all about? So Thursday, my sermon completely changed from what it was going to be. This is totally different. But I think we all need to hear this message today. So we're going to look at what is called the prayer of Jabez. If you've never heard of it, there's this neat little book here that was written by Bruce Wilkinson that kind of goes through and explains the prayer more than I can. But I'm going to give you a quick understanding of what it is this prayer is about. So if you open your Bibles and turn with me to First Chronicles chapter 4, and that is in the Old Testament. It's after the book of Kings. So First Chronicles chapter 4, and we're going to run down to verse 9. Are y'all with me yet?
I hope so.
John says he hopes so. All right. There was a man named Jabez who was more honorable than any of his brothers. His mother named him Jabez because his birth had been so painful. He was the one who prayed to the God of Israel, "Oh, that you would bless me and expand my territory. Please be with me in all that I do and keep me from all trouble and pain." And God granted his request. That right there is the total of what we know about Jabez. That's it. And if you paid attention, you got two things out of that. First, he was the most honorable man of his brothers. And the second one was that he caused his mother a lot of pain in childbirth. And that's important to know because his name literally means in Hebrew, the man who brings pain. So imagine that for a moment. You walk up to introduce yourself. "Hello, I'm the man who brings pain." Many people think that Jabez felt his life was cursed because of his name. And you kind of see that in this prayer. Okay? So I want you to look at what the parts of this prayer are. I'm going to pull my notes down here today. Look at the first part. He prays to God, "Oh, that you would bless me." Now, we kind of get the idea that maybe his life has not been a life of blessings yet. That maybe he struggled a bit. And so he's crying out to God, "Bless me, God." Now, why is this important? What do we learn from this? The one thing we learn from this is that God longs to bless people who desire a life that uh, prospers with the fullness of God. In other words, when you desire all that God has for you and you call out to God for that, he blesses people. He longs to give you that because you're asking for everything God has, the fullness of God. Not a little bit of God, not the God that you think people tell you is who God is, but all that God has, God longs to bless those people. So that's what Jabez is doing. He's asking for everything God's got. Then look at the second part. He asked God to expand my territory. Now, we're not talking about land. Okay? A lot of people, think of territory and land as the same thing. In this instance, his territory is his area of influence. Okay? You all have an area of influence in your life. It might be really small. It could be really big. But he's asking for it to grow, to make it wider, to make it bigger. Okay, this is important. Because what we learn here is that God is ready to fulfill people with a vision for a life that extends beyond the status quo. In other words, when people seek to have a greater purpose, a greater vision of life than what the ordinary people have, God wants to provide that. Okay? If you're not happy with your life at the moment, maybe it's because you're not asking God to grow it. Maybe you're not asking God to make it bigger, to give you more importance in the world around you. And maybe deep down you have that desire for that to happen, but you're holding back. Because oftentimes we're afraid. You ever been afraid? I have. Have you ever been afraid that maybe someone might actually take you seriously and listen to what you have to say? And then you get afraid, well, what if I tell them the wrong thing? What if I lead them the wrong way? And a lot of people let that fear hold them back. And some of you sitting right here in this room, because I know you. And I know you let that fear hold you back. So he's asking for that expanded territory, that bigger influence than what he has now. And then look at the next part of this. He says, please be with me. Have you ever felt alone? I know you have. I know you have. We oftentimes feel alone. Doesn't matter if we're surrounded by people. We still feel alone. And we feel like there's nobody there to walk with us. And so Jabez calls out to God, please be with me. And it's important because what we learn is that God is ready to empower all who, can you read my own notes? Who invite his works and resources of power. In other words, when you're ready to allow God to be God in your life, he's ready to empower you. You like empowerment, don't you? I do too. It's very important that we feel empowered, because if you're not feeling empowered in life, guess what you're feeling? Defeated. Do you know the one thing Satan wants you to feel? The number one thing in all of your life he wants you to feel is defeated. I can't do it. I don't know how. It's not worth it. And so Jabez is calling out to God to give him the power so he won't be defeated and won't feel defeated. You know, you're not defeated. None of us are defeated unless you feel like you're defeated. Defeat is an emotion when you think about it, which means empowerment is also an emotion. Okay? You may say, well, I don't really have any great resources. I don't have a lot of money. I don't have, I don't have a lot of people that listen to me. But that doesn't mean you have to feel defeated. You can still feel empowered to speak out, to do things, and not be afraid. It really is an emotion. And that emotion ends up being an action eventually. Because when you feel empowered, Hillary, what do? You
hopefully do great things.
Right? You try things.
Yeah.
You act upon that. No one acts upon the feeling of being defeated. Do they? Have you ever felt defeated and got up and did anything? Crystal, you're shaking your head there. Nope. When you feel defeated, you don't do anything because you don't feel like doing anything. You feel like life is worthless. That's the whole point. That's why Satan wants you to feel defeated. So you have to pray, God, please be with me. And then he gets to the last little bit. He prays that, God, please keep me from all trouble and pain. Now remember, he's the man who causes pain or brings pain. And so he's praying, God, keep me from all this pain. Keep me from all this trouble. So what do we learn here? God will grant deliverance from physical and spiritual destruction to all who call upon him. Now notice those words. He will grant you deliverance. But, there's always a but. But, you have to call upon him. You have to ask. It is not automatic. Okay? God is not this automatic being that just doles out whatever you need because you need it. No. You have to ask for it. You want blessings in this life? You have to ask for it. You want to have greater resources? Ask for it. You want to not feel alone? Ask for it. And if you want deliverance, ask God to deliver. It's not going to happen automatically. You don't get your bank account filled every month simply because you're a child of God. Okay? We often think that's the way it's supposed to work. I'm a child of God. God puts in his deposit every month and I'm good to go. No. It would be nice, but God doesn't act that way. We operate that way. God does not operate that way. God is going to make you humble yourself before him and come and ask for what you need. Shame on him, right? How dare he do something like that? Who does he think he is? Well, he thinks he's God. And if you know your place, you think he's God and you're not. We've talked about this a whole bunch.
Yep.
And when you know you're not God, you will humble yourself and go before him and say, God, I need you. I need you to do this. I need this in my life. I don't have it and I can't put it there. If you're not willing to go there, if you're not willing to do that, you're going to suffer. Because God will look upon you and his heart will break for you. But he's waiting. He's waiting for you to move. He's waiting for you to come and bow down and ask, help me. So that is what this prayer of Jabez is all about. It is about Jabez asking God for the help that only God can give and that he could not give himself. I want you to think of it this way. If you break these down, there's 4 things. Blessings, a vision for life, empowerment, and deliverance. Hillary, can you think of any 4 other things you'd want in life?
Those are pretty good.
Those are pretty good. I'd be happy to have all 4 of those running rampant in my life. And the reason we don't is because we don't go and ask for it. We don't pray this prayer. I want you to learn to pray this prayer. Because I know a lot of you are seeking this. I know a lot of you want a life that's blessed because you don't feel like you're being blessed now. Ask for it. I know a lot of you want your purpose. What is my purpose in life? Why am I here? If you're young, you've asked yourself that question. If you're old, you've asked yourself that question. Why am I here? What's my purpose? Go to God with that question. Ask him, give me a bigger purpose. Make my purpose bigger than it is now. And go and want that empowerment. I want to be empowered to not be a victim of anything that comes in my life. I could be a victim. I could play the victim card. I have multiple sclerosis for 20 years. A couple of years ago, I found out I have this esophagus problem where it doesn't actually work anymore at all. This little thing in here is dead. It's just running rampant, all like a little river through my chest. It doesn't work. But yet here I am. We could play the victim. You could play the victim. The victim gets you nothing. Playing the victim will make your life miserable. God doesn't want victims. He wants empowered people that can go out and do the one thing he wants you to do. And I know this because as I was talking about this message with God on Friday, he reminded me of three little words that he told me, oh gosh, 10, 15 years ago. I forget now. Probably 10 or so, maybe 12. And those three words were, lead my people. Because you also are charged with leading my people. You do understand that, right? You are missionaries for God. And part of that is leading his people from wherever they are to where they need to go. Because not everybody's at the same place. And sometimes his people might be people that know nothing about God yet, but will in the future because you're willing to lead them there. Think about that. This prayer works. I can tell you this prayer works because I prayed this prayer over and over and over again. When I first read this book, it touched me so much, I started praying this prayer. That was roughly 10 years ago, I think. I forget when this book was written. Um, but I think I found it about 10 years ago, which would put us somewhere around 2009. I began praying this prayer because I was not happy with my life. I was not happy where I was at. I was fearful. I was scared. I couldn't talk to people. I could not definitely stand up in front of people. And I certainly could not be live on YouTube at the moment. Okay? That would not have happened 10 years ago. There's no way. But I prayed this prayer. So I can attest to the fact that Jabez's prayer is powerful. It will change your life, but you have to be willing to let it happen. Because I was one of those people that would have sat in the back row of the church and hope you didn't notice me. Let me come in and slip out quietly and don't talk to me. But I began to pray this prayer and I began to let God do things that he wanted to do. My territory has been expanded greatly. I'm now a YouTube star. Hello. Well, it's true. I have been blessed in many ways. Health-wise, I have all these health problems, but nobody believes me when I tell them. And God is always with me. I don't feel alone. You can put me on a deserted island, I'm going to be fine. Won't bother me one bit. Me and God will get along fine until somebody comes and rescues me. And I always know that he is going to deliver me from times of trouble and pain. We are entering a time of trouble and pain in this country. Most likely tomorrow morning we're going to wake up and the stock market is going to be crashing like you have never seen in your lifetime. Okay? I just want you to know that. If it doesn't happen tomorrow, it may happen Tuesday. But do not expect it to look good. We're facing the difficulty of this virus that no one really knows everything about yet, and it scares people, and there's going to be a lot of scared people running around the country and the world. I'm not afraid. God is protecting me. So no matter what comes, we're going to face difficulties. We may wake up in a couple of weeks and find out all the schools in Cherokee County have been closed. And if we can't go to work, I'm not afraid. It's okay. God is with me, and God is going to protect me and keep me from trouble. Will I have to go through it? Yes, you will all have to go through it. But that doesn't mean you're going through it alone, and it doesn't mean you're going to have to be afraid of it. That's up to you. You get to decide today how you're going to respond tomorrow. God won't decide it for you, but the devil will. He will be glad to decide for you how you will respond tomorrow. If you don't want to deal with it, put it in his hands and he will gladly take it from you. God will not do that because God recognizes your sovereignty as a human being and you get to choose what you want to do. He made us that way and he won't take that away from us. So I want you to decide today if you're going to live like Jabez. If you're going to pray this prayer over and over again until you see the results of it happening in your life. Because at that point, you can quit praying it because it's already in effect. Okay? Once you see those results happen, it's on. You've got that ingrained within your spirit, within your mind. You can quit praying it if you want to and just let it keep rolling. But that's your choice today. And I do believe this prayer can help a lot of people get through the next weeks and months of what we face in America, in the world, where it's not just us. It will give you the strength you need because you're bowing before God and you're asking him for the most important things in your life. That he would be God and that he would pour himself into you. And that's what you need today. So I want you to take this message and I want you to really consider being like Jabez. You know, we don't know who this man is. He is, for all intents and purposes, he's a nobody. The Jews really don't know who he is either. He's just a man who showed up in the middle of the story and his prayer was recorded. But the most important thing we know about it is that God granted his prayer. When you read this verse, the last one, God granted his prayer. God heard him and he responded. You want God to hear you and you want God to respond? Pray this. You can kind of mold it into your own words if you want to. Doesn't matter. As long as you hit those 4 topics. Bless me. Expand my territory. Be with me and deliver me. Keep those 4 in your prayers and see what happens. If it does not change your life, as it has changed my life, well, it will change your life. I'm just going to tell you. It will. It has to. If you pray it and mean it and want it. Well, we're going to close up on that. This altar is open for you today. If you want to come down and pray with me, you're welcome to. Y'all stand up.